Hello, Ariza Gaming here, and welcome to another episode of Sandbox Showcase, a series where I talk about problems in Oxygen Not Included and how you can solve them easily and efficiently. So, we've got a hatch here. There's a few different types of critters in the game that you're going to want to ranch for various benefits. In this case, the hatch eats stuff and turns it into coal. With Sweetles, they'll eat sulfur and turn it into sucrose, and Grubgrubs will eat sucrose and turn it into mud, which you can then turn into dirt and water. But you also end up with a load of critters that you can turn into meat, which you can turn into barbecue. And barbecue is a very good value food for the amount of actual morale it gives you. So the question at the end of the day is, how can you ranch these guys effectively in a way that means you're not micromanaging it all the time? Because the last thing you want to do is just be shuffling around eggs with your dupes all the time, especially if you're trying to get up to a large number of duplicants and there's many different branches to micromanage. Say if you're trying to produce a load of excess food for feeding the tree on the resin planet. So this video is going to talk about how to ranch hatches, Sweetles, and Grubgrubs in an efficient way using mechatronics. That means that you never have to think about it again once you built it. The ranches will just run, the critters and eggs will all be moved through it, the materials will all be sent to the right places, and you never have to think about it ever again or worry about it breaking. So let's start off with the basic template for the ranch. So we'll zoom out here. We're right by the printing pod for a change. So let's enable sandbox mode. We'll just get rid of some of these things. Now you'll notice the hatch here is right next to the printing pod. As I keep saying, on most maps there will always be a hatch right next to the printing pod. So bear that in mind. Even on maps where you don't start in a biome that would have hatches. So first things first. These facts all apply to hatches, Sweetles, and Grubgrubs. If we have a look in the database, you'll see they've actually added something here where it tells you about the space required for the creature. So it's overcrowded when a room has less than 12 cells of space for each critter. It's combined when a room is smaller than 12 cells. So the maximum size of a ranch is 96. So that usually means you're going to end up with 8 hatches, Sweetles, or Grubgrubs per ranch. And you can adjust this now they've updated critter happiness. You can feed them brackine from a critter fountain and fit more critters into a single ranch. But the space in the ranch you can use for other things. I don't tend to find it too much of a problem, so just for the purpose of this video, we're going to ignore brackine. But if you want to use brackine, you can fit a critter fountain in these rooms, add more critters, and adjust the automation to suit. So, without further ado, let's actually get started with the build. So, first things first, the room. I'm just going to put some pneumatic doors here to close the room off. You don't want the critters running around all over the place. And for these critters in specific, we actually want to keep them as close to the grooming station as possible, so that when the duplicant calls them over for grooming, they're not spending ages wandering across the room, and that way your duplicant can groom them all faster and move on with their lives. So we're going to make this what we're going to do is we're actually going to make this a 25 by 4 room, and you'll see why in a minute. So that can just go here and here. Then we can just put the tiles in. It doesn't really matter what tiles you use for this. Granite tiles is just fine to start. Regular tiles give you the 25% run speed bonus. You can replace these with plastic or metal later on for a better run speed bonus. But we'll just fill this all in. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to put another tile in here, and then you'll notice, so this is 100 tiles, and now 3 of them have been taken up by this stuff. But how this is actually going to work is we're going to have a little bit of a door up here, and you'll see why in a minute. But the end result is 4 of the 100 tiles are taken up. The room is 96 tiles. So then what we'll do is we'll just put the grooming station over here. So that can just go like this. And then we'll put the critter feeder right next to it here. And what we'll do with the critter feeder is we'll fill it with whatever we want the hatch to eat. Hatches eat a lot of different things. Obviously, we haven't spawned a lot of things. But it doesn't really matter what we feed them for now. So that's where they're going to get their food. And then, to be honest, like, you just need a way of actually getting the dudes in here. So I would just recommend building a critter drop-off to start with. And you have space to leave it in there. So go ahead and leave it in there. And then what you can do is you can just set this to max 8 critters. You can select the critter you want, so we'll want hatches and hatchlings. Set it to, let's set it to priority 8. And then if your dupe wrangles these guys, they'll drop them off in here. And that's how you can fill up your initial room. Alternatively, you can now use the move to command, and that will let you move individual hatches to wherever you want without a critter drop off. It will auto wrangle them. You do still need a duplicate with critter ranching 1 so that you can wrangle them to do this. Or you could use the new critter traps, which you can find in here. These are now made of metal ore, and they're recyclable. Yeah, they're reusable. So they're a lot better than they used to be. You can use any of those methods and it's fine. So that solves the question of how we fill this room with hatches and how we groom them without them wandering around all over this space. With this space, you can literally use it for whatever you want. When I'm doing hatches, I typically like to have coal plants in here and all the stuff associated with those. You can use anything that isn't going to invalidate the ranch room designation. So if I just press play, you'll see this now counts as a stable. It's 96 tiles. It has a grooming station. And if we come down here, these are the only requirements. So the only buildings that you're not going to want to put in here are buildings that are going to cause a room to act like another room. Like, for instance, medical equipment or something. So there's lots of stuff you can do in here. Farms are pretty good to put in here as well. If you've got Sweetles and Grubgrubs and you're doing this, having some plants in here is a good idea. If you want, you can actually open the door here as well for Sweetles and Grubgrubs and have them tend these plants. It takes a little bit longer for them to call over to the grooming station, but it can be worth it. But anyways, it's not really about this space. What we're focused on now is these guys. So these guys are going to lay eggs. And when they lay eggs, once there's 8 critters in here, the egg is going to make the room cramped and they're going to stop laying more eggs. So what you want to do is you want to move all of the eggs out of here as quickly as possible and make sure that the room never gets cramped. So these guys can just keep laying eggs. So there's a few different ways you can do this. Before you have mechatronics, you can have dupes sweep up eggs manually. You can have a critter sensor activate when it detects an egg, and you can tell them to put it in an automated dispenser or something like that to just drop off the eggs somewhere. Set this to sweep only, have it drop the eggs somewhere that's outside the ranch. But I would probably just build this when we get mechatronics and just prioritize getting a mechatronics engineering dupe as soon as possible if you're going to try and build this set and forget ranch design. So if we go to shipping, auto sweeper is here. Lead is absolutely fine for this. It's not going to be getting hot for any of those 3 critters. We can just put this here. And then what we'll do is we'll put a conveyor loader up here. And again, this can be made of lead as well. So you want to set this to everything, really. And then whenever an egg is laid, this will grab the egg, put it in here, and then it will send it off to the room where you want it to go. So then the next step is actually deciding what to do with the eggs. And that's the complicated part. Because what we want to do is we want the eggs to be stored near to the ranches. We want them to hatch, and then we want them to refill the ranches as needed. But if the ranches are full, then we want the excess critters to be turned into meat, so they're not running around and eating all of our FPS. Because having loads and loads of critters just running around is a surefire way to reduce the performance of the game. And you want the meat. If you have enough critters in your ranches, you don't need them running around. As cruel as that sounds. So the next part of this is going to be building the dropper and actually getting that to work, which is a little bit more complicated. So I can't take full credit for this. Leofar was the one that gave me this idea. I'm just kind of explaining it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some more doors here. We're going to put another set of 2 doors here. And I'll explain these ones in a minute. And then we're going to put another set of 2 here. And then we'll just destroy all of this stuff. This doesn't have to go all this way. I'm just doing it because it lines up. And you'll probably want to use this space for something else. Okay, so we put the doors in. Now let's actually make the rest of the dropper room. So the fundamental principle behind this is that critters, when they become adults, are going to wander over here and then either get dropped into the ranches if there's a space available in the ranches, or they're going to go over to a drowning chamber on the other side of the room where they're going to drown. So we'll just put this here. I like to make this tile an airflow tile, and I'll explain that in a minute as well. And then we'll just put some tiles up here. And then this is basically the room done. You can put a door in here as well. In fact, let's just put a door in there as well. That's absolutely fine. But this is the footprint that the whole dropper automation sorting bit is going to take up. It's not that much space, but you do need to put it directly above your ranches, because the critters are going to drop through this door here. That's the function of this door. So, first things first, we're going to put a conveyor chute here, and that's where this conveyor loader is going to lead. All the eggs and everything else that comes out of these ranches is going to get dumped in this little bit here. And an important part of how this build works is that we're going to wait until the critters are adults to sort them out. So if we actually spawn in a little baby hatch, you'll notice something interesting. So a baby hatch can't actually climb up one tile gaps. Neither can a baby Sweetle, and neither can a baby Grubgrub. But the adults all can. So if we put show navigation, it can't move. But if we just spawn a hatch in, like a regular one. There you go. So if we select the hatch behind it and show navigation, that guy can climb out of here and wander around this room. And the reason for that is because I don't want to drown babies, because it's cruel. The actual reason is because you want this room to be full of adult critters so they can start progressing eggs as much as possible. You don't want babies in the breeder ranches taking up ranch slots and not producing more eggs. Having the babies stay in here maximizes the overall egg throughput, and thus the overall meat throughput of this whole setup. So here's the dudes. What we'll do is we'll put another critter drop off up here. And this is going to be set to priority 9. Because what you're going to want to do is you're primarily going to want to drop the critters in this room. And then they'll all get sorted out where they need to go. This is only to be used initially and in case there's a problem and you just need to fix it quickly. So most of the time, this shouldn't be used at all. So then what we're going to do is we're going to put in a little bit of water. You can put a bottle emptier here and dump some water, or you can just use a pedestal, or you can use the move to command on some random water bottles we've got. Any liquid will do. On Rime, you'll want to make sure it's a liquid that won't freeze when it's super cold, because the critters don't need to be super warm to survive. I mean, these hatches, what temperature will they go down to? They'll go down to -30, and then if we look at Sweetles, they'll go down to -30 as well, and then so will Grubgrubs. So you can do this on Rime pretty well. You can put oil in here, and that will always work. But you don't. Oh, whoops! You don't necessarily need oil to do this. I would only do it if it's on Rime. Otherwise, water or brine or salt water will do. Don't use polluted. Don't use polluted water. You don't want that off-gassing. Let's just say that you use some salt water. It doesn't need to be much. Like 1 kilogram per tile will do. And then what we'll do is we'll put a mechanized airlock over the top. So that will go here. And you'll see when this is closed, the liquid raises up completely. And this will drown the critter. It wouldn't normally drown in a kilogram of liquid, but if the door is closed, it will, because there's no air gap here. And that's why I have the airflow tile here, so that when you fill this with liquid, you're not gonna have random gases sitting in here. They're not going to end up displacing any of the liquid. Gases will just get pushed out. So that goes there. And then what I like to do as well is I like to put another auto sweeper up here. Have it go into this room. It will be able to access this tile when the door opens, so you don't need to worry about that. And then what we do is we just stick a load of conveyor loaders in here. So there's room for 4 loaders. I'm just going to put in 4 loaders. Just make sure they're all in range of the auto sweeper, but that should be fine. So we'll put that there. And then for hatches, what I like to do is I like to have one of these for coal. So say this one. One of these can be for eggshells, for processing them into lime. One of them can be for the meat. And then one of them can be for food that you're actually feeding the hatches, and you can just have this set to allow manual use. And then that can go where it needs to go. So we've got the conveyor loaders in here. The next step is the automation. And the automation for this gets a little bit complicated, but I'm going to try my best to explain it. It's not the most complicated thing out there, but it's probably one of the most complicated things we're going to see in one of my videos. I don't tend to do a lot of complex automation if I can avoid it, but in this case, it just works really well. And hopefully I can explain it in a way that actually makes sense. So we're going to put a critter sensor in here. We're going to put a critter sensor in each of our branches. And we're going to put 2 critter sensors up here. And then begins the part where we actually need to set it to do stuff. So let's see. If I go to the automation overlay, I'm just going to build all of this and then I'll explain what it does. So again, lead is fine for all of this. It's not going to get super hot unless you're feeding them hot materials. If you're doing this in your base and they're not using atmo suits, you should be cooling down all your input materials before you bring them to your base. If you're feeding these guys with hot igneous rock from a magma volcano, that needs to be cooled down before you bring it here. Otherwise, it's going to be too hot and the hatches are going to die. Or you're going to scold your dupes or whatever. So I'm just going to assume we're using lead for all of this. So we're going to hook these both up together. And then we're just going to send this wire down here. And we're going to put a NOT gate on this bit here. So where's the NOT gate? Here it is. So it's going to go there. We're then going to have an AND gate. And that is going to go here so that it fits with the automation port for this door. And then we're just going to connect some automation wires across. This one's going to go here. This one's going to go here. So this one is activating the door. It's got nothing to do with this AND gate. And then this is going to go up here. And we're going to have a filter gate. So that's going to go here between the AND gate and the door here. This is the door that lets the critter drop through. And then we're going to put an automation wire here. That's going to connect to that. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this critter sensor here to more than 1 critter, not including eggs. And we're going to set this to below 1 critter and eggs. So these are in series. And then more automation wire. So we're going to have another wire come through here, and I'll explain what this wire does in a minute. And then that is going to come up here as well. We're just going to send it around this conveyor loader. And then that's going to come up here. We're going to have a NOT gate. That's going to come here. And then we're going to put another AND gate here. We're going to rotate it again so that it fits between all of these other automation ports. That wire is going to come up here. And then this one is going to come down here to the critter sensor. And then the output of the AND gate is going to go to the door and determine how the door opens and closes. And then the last bit of this is we're going to set this critter sensor. Oh, wait. Hold on, I've skipped a step. This critter sensor also needs to be set to less than 1 critters or eggs. And then this one needs to be set to above 8 critters. And if you have brackine in here and you can have more critters in here without them getting overcrowded, you can set this to however high the threshold is for the critter fountain. And then what you'll need to do is you'll just need to move this forward a bit and make some space for the critter fountain. But Most of the time you're going to have enough space to do this without critter fountains, unless you've got an absolutely absurd amount of critters. But I'm going to assume that you're just building this without a critter fountain for now. So then what we're going to do here is we're actually going to delete all of this, and then I'll show you how to chain these all together as well. So if I just destroy all of this stuff, you don't need these here either. Yeah, remove all of that. So we're just going to put in literally another identical ranch down here to show you how to chain them together. So again, the door will go on this tile here, and it will go one down. We'll put this here. This door here actually needs to be a mechanized airlock, not a pneumatic door. So that one goes there. And then what we do is we take the automation wire, we send it down here to the door, and then we put a NOT gate coming off that wire here, and then what we do is we send this wire up here. So that's actually all of the wiring. This is all the automation you need to do to get this device to work. And we'll just seal this bit off here. And now I'm going to actually explain how this automation works. So I thought I'd spare you explaining it while I'm actually building everything. So if we go to the overlay. So when this ranch... So this is set to above 8 critters, it activates this door. So if the ranch needs filling, if the ranch needs filling, this door will be closed. So when a critter is dropped through here, it's going to fall into this room, land, and then it's going to wander around this ranch, and it's going to behave as part of this ranch. But then once this room is full, this door will open, and when the critter gets dropped through here, it's going to land in the next ranch down. So this design will fill up the top ranch first, and then it will fill the subsequent ranches going down further and further. And you can do this for a column theoretically forever, but then the constraint is going to be feeding everyone and actually moving all the waste products, all of the byproducts out of the ranches fast enough. Because believe me, we learned from Rhyme Revenge that if you have enough of these, one conveyor line of material going at 20 kilograms a second isn't going to cut it. But this should definitely work for up to 10 ranches without any issues, before you start running into conveyor belt issues. Anyways, so that's what opens this door. But if this door isn't open, then this NOT gate will activate. And then that's going to do two things. So first of all, if a ranch needs filling, so this ranch needs filling, for instance, so let's unpause it and go back to the overlay. So this ranch needs filling, so this door is closed. That activates this NOT gate, and that activates this port on here. So you'll see at the moment, there's no critters in this room where these two critter sensors are. So if we go back to the automation overlay, that means that this line is green. So that comes down here, and then it opens up this pneumatic door. So that means that an adult critter can now wander into this room. It also closes off this port. So what will happen is a critter will wander into this room. And then the door is going to close behind it immediately, because as soon as a critter is detected in this room, this will shut off. And then the critter will remain trapped in this little bit here. And then this filter gate, we're going to set this to say 5 seconds. And then after 5 seconds of the critter being in here, this door is then going to open because this will be activated, because both these ports will be activated. So then this door will open, and the critter will eventually randomly wander into this door. And in doing so, it leaves this room here and enters this room here, which is literally just a door. So then what will happen is the door will shut on the critter, and the critter will become confined. And that will cause the critter to drop through this pneumatic door here. So that's how the critter actually drops into the ranch. So that's handling all of this stuff. And then what's happening as well, when we've got multiple ranches, I'll just... What's all this water doing here? To illustrate the repeatability. So what you do is you put another critter sensor here, and then that would connect to this door. It would have the exact same setting. If we just copy settings on that, that'll be fine. And then we'll put in another NOT gate. And again, that will just come off this wire here. And then that will go in series with this. And what that means is, once all of the ranches are full, i.e. not a single one needs filling, this line will turn red. And what that will mean is that this door will stay closed, and then this line up here will activate as well. So this line will turn green, and then if this room is empty, which it currently is, both of these ports will be green and this door will open. So once all the ranches are full, they can't go into the dropper anymore and the drowning chamber opens up. And then because this critter sensor is set to any critter entering to turn red. So because of that, as soon as a critter wanders into this little puddle that it wouldn't normally drown in, the door will close and then the critter will drown. So the critters are going to get drowned one at a time, which is fine if you've got a relatively low number of ranches. I'd say up to 10 and this is going to be absolutely fine. You can do more, but bear in mind that if the room is filling super quickly with babies, you might not end up trapping the critters one at a time. If you ever end up in a situation where they're all running around the room simultaneously, then this door will never get a chance to close and it might not handle all the critters correctly. But you have to really be pushing like the amount of ranches you've got. Like 10 ranches will be absolutely fine, 20 will be okay, 40 is pushing it, but could still happen. But you're never likely to actually come across those numbers. So for all intents and purposes, you shouldn't have any problems with that. And that's how the automation works in all of this. So then the last thing we'll do is, because this conveyor loader here is going to be for raw materials, what we'll actually do is we'll put in some conveyor receptacles over here. And we'll just hook the manually loaded conveyor rail up here. And that's just going to come down here with all the raw materials. And then what will happen is, set this to a lower priority than the critter feeder, and the auto sweeper will collect food from the receptacle, and it'll dump it into the critter feeder. And that way, you won't have material constantly moving along this line. This will fill up a little bit, and then this will fill up a lot. And then as this needs refilling, as the critters eat all the stuff out of the feeder, more stuff can just be pulled from the feeder, and then more stuff can be pulled from a receptacle, and then more stuff can be loaded in from the loader. So that's quite a simple way of doing that. And then these are just your byproducts that'll go to wherever you want to process them. So let's see. The last thing we need is just a little bit of power. So you can just hook this all up with a regular wire. It doesn't use that much power. So we'll just do it like this. You'll notice that the way I've orientated these loaders, the ports are all aligned, so you can build a pretty small wire and satisfy this. And then I'm just going to stick a dev generator up here. I'm not going to stick a dev generator up here because I haven't activated debug mode. So we're going to get a dupe to run on a manual generator and just fill some batteries, I guess. So you can see this hatch has wandered over here. They're randomly wandering into this door, eating some sand. That's fine. Eventually, you're going to randomly wander into this room. But it might take a little minute, so we'll just wait for the hatch to... We'll just wait for the hatch to decide what to do. Right, so now he's wandering into the room. So you'll see, this door immediately shuts, and then 5 seconds later, when this filter gate activates, this door will open. And then this guy will eventually run into this door. That will shut automatically, and I'll push him down. So, because there's literally nothing in his save that happened immediately, but the more stuff you have in your save, the longer it will take, which is why I have the filter gate set to 5 seconds. You can set it to 3 and it'll mostly be alright, but the more stuff you get, the longer you'll need to set these gates to make sure it works correctly, and then the more likely it is that it's actually going to overfill. But again, 80 critters will be handled by this just fine. So the hatch is dropped into here, and then what we'll do as well is I'll just spawn a few more hatches down here. So this is set to 8. Let's just add a load. Oh, we've already got this set, so here you go. 8 hatches. Here's some more hatches as well. And we'll also set these doors to open up. So put a wire down here for all these mechanized doors. I think we actually want to set these to above 7. Yeah, that's what we want to do. I misread that. Apologies. So now, these doors have opened up. You shouldn't be able to wander down here. We'll spawn another hatch in here. That door will open again. So now you can see they're just wandering on top of the door like they should. And now that means that the drowning chamber is opened up here. So we'll wait for this hatch to actually decide what to do. So now the hatch has decided to jump in here. And that means this door closes. And now because the door is closed, even with a very minuscule amount of liquid, the guy is going to drown. And then you'll get the meat out of that. And then this door will reopen, and then that will allow the auto sweeper to grab the stuff. So let's put edibles in here. Let's put... yeah, that'll do. So we'll just wait for this hatch to drown. A very sad fate indeed. But this works with Sweetles and Grubgrubs as well. The babies behave in exactly the same way as hatch babies. And they drown in the same way. And even though the Grubgrub looks like it... even though the Grubgrub looks like it takes up a lot of space, it still fits in the one tile. So even though it looks a bit wonky, it will still work the dropper without any issues. Yeah, there you go. So now the meat is being loaded into the loader, and it will go wherever you want it to go. So, in essence, that's how this build works. And the only wrinkle I would say is that because of how automation buildings work, you can't really mirror them. So if we go to the automation overlay again, the actual arrangement of the wires is going to be very slightly different if you build the dropper facing the other way. So very quickly, I'm just going to show you what that looks like if we mirror this dropper. We stick the ranch on this side instead. Okay, so we're back. We've done all the automation on these left-hand side ranches with the left-handed dropper. So if we just compare this side by side, it looks quite similar but has a few small differences. So these critter centers are still set to above 7 critters for hatches. You'd want to set that to above 5 for Grubgrubs, because you can only fit 6 of them in a 96 tile ranch. And adjust those numbers to suit critter fountains as well. But you'll see you want to bring the automation wire out this way because of how the ports these buildings lie. They're not actually on the same side like they are for the right-handed dropper. So you'll send the automation wire up this way, and then that will need to bridge over this door to get to this AND gate here. So again, if all the ranches are full, then this will activate. This will go red, and this bit here with the critter centers functions in exactly the same way. So when there's no critter in here, it will activate this NOT gate. So this door will open, and then this will be closed. So when a critter wanders through here, the door will close. This will activate, and then if any ranch needs filling, then this door will open after 5 seconds. With the filter gate being positioned here. You want the output port of the AND gate to be in here, just to the right of this door here. And then when all of the ranches are full, this will go red, which will activate this green bit here. And then because this room is empty as well, that will activate this as well. So you want to orientate the AND gate like this, so that the output port is directly underneath the door, which is a bit different than how it's done with the right-handed dropper. So then that will open this drowner once all the ranches are filled, and then again this door won't open here. So overall, it's quite similar. If I just actually, yeah, here we go. So here you can see the different wires and how they're positioned relative to the AND gates. And then if we go out of this, it's kind of unfortunate because we're in sandbox mode, we haven't got the tech for automation. I have to have the actual build menu open to actually show all the ports, which is important. But I hope that gives you a good overview of what that looks like. And again, just to prove this works, what we'll do is we'll just spawn in some hatches. You know what, let's spawn in some Sweetles, just to demonstrate it works with these guys as well. So divergence, we'll put a Sweetle lava in here. You'll see they still can't climb in or out of this thing. They're just going to sit there looking like a bug. We'll set this to critters priority 9. They're set to critters priority 8. It's all good. And then if we spawn a regular Sweetle in here. So that's Sweetles in here, and they're going to have a wander around. So you can see with the funny legs, he wanders over to this tile. He's wandering back over. Eventually he's going to wander into here. The door is now locked. This will activate over the next 5 seconds. Then this door will activate. Now, if you're doing this and you're leaving a gap because you've got another type of branch over here, then you want to just set this pneumatic door to always be open. So that's what we've done here, instead of having a mechatronic door. So then that guy's in here, that door immediately shuts, and that guy immediately gets pushed through to the level where he needs to be. So again, if we're doing this for Sweetles, we'll just spawn in another 7 Sweetles in here. There you go. And we'll do the same down here as well. So now this room is open. All the doors are open because all the branches are full. And then if we go to the actual automation overlay, you'll see that the drowner bit is open. So then if we spawn in another dude, I can go there. And we'll speed up again. And that guy has now decided to wander straight over here. Sometimes they'll wander on top of the door. Sometimes they'll wander down here. Don't be disheartened if you see the guy coming over the door. They will eventually decide to just wander in there. So one thing I forgot to mention with this build is, when all the branches are full and a critter will wander into here, a single critter will remain trapped in the dropper. They're not going to get drowned, but they're also not going to get dropped through to the rest of the branches. You're just going to have one guy hanging in here on standby in case a guy dies. And then, as soon as a guy dies in here, this guy will probably wander over here and immediately get dropped in. So this is, if you see this is a feature, not a bug. I mean, in this case, it's literally a bug as well, but it doesn't have to be. But if we put another guy in here, then you'll see that he has no option but to wander into the drowner and then eventually drown. So we'll wait for this bug to meet his demise. There you go. So now you can see the Sweetle is drowning as well. And then, just to demonstrate how this is going to work as well, I'll just show you what it looks like with some Grubgrubs. So now, you'll see we've got a Grubgrub in here as well. And the Grubgrub is quite a bit larger, but they'll wander around. And they're still only actually taking up the tile where their head is. The rest of their body is just following them. So in this case, he's going to wander into the dropper. This door is going to shut, and the day is going to load. So this guy is now confined in these 2 tiles exactly. So then we'll wait another 5 seconds. He can't move despite his tail being over here. This door will then open, and he'll wander into this bit eventually, and then he'll get dropped through to join these guys in this case. So that shows a Grubgrub being dropped. And then just to show you what happens as well with a Grubgrub drowning. So now this door is locked. In this case, he's decided to wander straight into the drowning chamber. So because his head is in the drowning chamber, a door is now going to close, and then he's going to start drowning. So you can see he's having a little bit of a glitchy session here, but he is drowning and he can't move. So this demonstrates the functionality of the room. And one final thing to notice. So these guys, I didn't build a bathroom for them, so they're all very sad. As these guys should be for drowning all these critters. But the reason I have these doors up here is just so that the duplicates can wander in and out of this room without worrying about these doors being locked. Because they can just wander on the top of all of these doors across this gap. So this way, there's never any moment where a duplicant can't get into room to maintain it, unless this thing is closed. You want to build all this stuff before building the door, so that when it shuts, you don't have to access this stuff again. Because this is only going to open once critters are going to be drowning and all the branches are full. So yeah, that's the build. This will let you ranch critters in here while automatically moving all of the eggs and all the byproducts into this room where they'll get sorted out. The baby critters will stay in here. The adult critters will either wander into this dropper zone to go down to the following ranches, or if the ranches are all full, they'll wander into the drowning chamber and then drown themselves to produce meat and to make sure you don't have a load of excess critters running around. And you can easily have the automation handed either the right-handed way, which is a little bit simpler, or you can have it handed the left-handed way, where you just need to put this bridge in here and you need to move this column down here and just rotate some of the ports around a little bit differently. So here's the two side by side, but this will let you ranch hatches, Sweetles, and Grubgrubs without ever having to think about it again once you've got everything set up. It won't break unless you're trying to do well over 100, maybe even 200 critters with a setup like this. But the laggier your game gets, the longer a time you're going to want to set on your filter gate, and then the more likely it is that it might overfill. If it does overfill, I would highly recommend just putting a critter drop-off somewhere else and just wrangling all the guys. If you're doing this with stone hatches or smooth hatches, they're going to have too much HP for you to kill them once they fill up a room like this. So you're going to want to make sure you have another area where you can drop them off. And to be honest, what you could do is you could actually put a critter drop-off in here, and then what you can do is you can actually flood this. You can flood this completely with 3 different liquids a below mass, and then have some open doors here. Or you could even just have it, not with open doors. In fact, let me talk about this for a minute, because this is a pretty handy tip as well, especially for handling other critters that aren't as well behaved. So what I'll do for the purposes of this is I'm just gonna seal this up completely. So we'll only access it from one way. And what we'll do is we'll put an airflow tile here, an airflow tile here, and then we'll put a pneumatic door here, and we'll make sure that this is opened up. So we'll get someone to come open this door. And then what we'll do is we'll put another airflow tile here, and either using a bottle emptier or using the move to command on liquid bottles. Oh, this guy's still drowning. That's a shame. These guys are all very sad. Let's pretend it's not about the bathrooms. Right, let us put in some liquids. So what I'd recommend if you're going to try and do this with 3 different liquid layers is have a little bit of crude oil, very small amount, like 30 grams or so. No, not 30 kilograms. Like as small as an amount as you can get. Put crude oil on the bottom, and put something a little bit heavier underneath. So let's say, or put something a little bit lighter over the top. So let's say brine. Crude oil is the heaviest liquid in terms of how it settles. So we'll put in, 30 grams. So we'll stick that there. And then we'll just stick a little bit of water up here. And what you'll want to do is, you'll probably want to actually, instead of building this immediately, what you'll probably want to do is you'll probably want to build a mesh tile and allow your dupes to get to the top of it, and then dump your little bit of water here. So you can do regular water on top of the brine and that'll be fine. So again, a very small amount, 30 grams will do. You don't want it overflowing. That can go there. And then you can remove that mesh tile. So we'll just put that salt water back. Here you go. And then we'll put the critter dropper back. And the reason I recommend airflow tiles here is just to make sure you can push the gases out, because with this low level of liquids, you're probably going to you're probably going to accidentally delete them if you have gases in here. And what you'll do is you'll set this, you'll set your other critter dropper where your critter drop off where the ranch is sort of overfilling and it can't cycle properly anymore. You'll set this to auto wrangle surplus. Let's say 20 critters is the max. So you set it to auto wrangle surplus, and then you'd have this one here on a much lower priority where they drop them off. And then because this is covered in liquids, the critters will try and drown in here. So what they'll do is they'll immediately wander out of this room. And the critter drop-off only applies to this room, so they'll wander into this room, and then you can infinitely fill this with critters, if need be. So the critter drop-off maxes out at 20, but because they're wandering out of this room, they'll be able to enter this room, and it will just fill with critters for however long you need, and you can just store them there. Just to clear these up and allow them to drop through here again. And then what you could do with that is you could set up another drowner here, and that could be set to much simpler automation. So that can literally just be set to below 1, and then that will open. So you just put that there, and then they'll wander into here over time. Again, you'll just put a little bit of salt water in here. It doesn't have to be much at all, and those critters will start drowning themselves on this completely closed system. So regardless of all this dropper automation, if any of this breaks for whatever reason, you have this middle spot here where you can just lay it out like this. And then if we put, say, a hatch in here, ignore the Among Us guy, that's a mod. So we put a hatch in here, you'll see they're immediately drowning, and they'll still immediately wander out of here. And well, Otto's still in here at the moment. Please don't pee in here. You know what, we're going to delete Otto. Feels bad, man. So then this guy's going to wander in here, and then he's going to drown himself in here. And that way, even if you have 400 smooth hatches in here that you can't possibly kill because you've left it for 50 cycles and you completely forgot about it, you can just have this room set up here, and then this will make sure that they drown independently of whatever automation you've got going on here. So that's a fail-safe that will work. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but one more thing to note is if you're doing this with Sweetles and Grubgrubs, the ratio of critters is kind of interesting in terms of processing all of the sulfur. I talk about this more in other videos, but suffice it to say, a ratio of 9 Sweetle ranches to 4 Grubgrub ranches will handle all the resources at the right ratio. So that will be enough to ensure that all of your sulfur is turned into mud without any critters going hungry. And because you have 8 Sweetles per Sweetle ranch and 6 Grubgrubs per Grubgrub ranch, that means you're going to have 72 Sweetles to 24 Grubgrubs, or 3 Sweetles per Grubgrub. And a pretty good approximation for this is to have 2 full Sweetle ranches, so 16 Sweetles, and then 5 Grubgrubs. And that's gonna leave you with a little bit of leftover sucrose because they're not going to eat it all. So you can use that for a sugar rocket or for cooking or whatever you want. But that's a pretty good ratio, is 2 Sweetle ranches to 1 Grubgrub ranch. 9 to 4 is better, but unless you've got a load of sulfur, you're probably not doing that. But this build can definitely handle 9 Sweetle ranches and 4 Grubgrub ranches. And then once more, I'm just going to show the automation overlay. So if I just zoom out completely, that's what it looks like with the left-handed one and the right-handed one next to each other. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel and you'll see more videos, discussion videos, more Sandbox Showcase where we solve more problems. We've got oxygen machines, we've got geyser tamers, all sorts of things. We have tier lists as well of different aspects of oxygen not included. The critter tier list is going to come eventually. It will come once we've gotten a bit further into arboreal airheads. We are doing a Twitch stream where we are playing a Folia cluster with only map breathers, and that's going well at the moment, I would say. We're going to have some fun experimenting with pips, poke shells, ethanol, all that sort of stuff. And we're finally getting to the sort of mid-game point of that. So feel free to go there and follow if you want to go look for that. I usually stream Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. Twitch, 7:30 to 10:30 British time. It is daylight savings soon, so that's going to change soon. And there is also the Discord where we like to hang out and post memes and builds. Usually Oxygen not included, but there's some other games on there as well, like Noita, Potion Craft, Dyson Sphere Program, those sorts of things. Yes. And in case you don't know, you can now become a YouTube member. So if you want to directly support the YouTube content, you can become a member and get access to fishy emotes and loyalty badges. And you will appear in the credits of videos like this one. So feel free to stick around for the credits and you'll see any YouTube members combined with the Twitch subscribers in those credits. And you'll have access to the Whiskers Lounge on Discord. But yeah, that's it from me. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Whiskers sends thanks to the following Twitch subscribers: Deadeye XL, Gusty Wind Flaps, Hiatus Seuss, Neo Deus Machina, Phage Lambda, The Max Not Binary, The Snow Fox, and Uglavisk.